All right, so you're thinking about checking out this Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. Arcade classics? Well, you've come to the right place. We've got a stack of reviews, articles, all sorts of stuff about this collection. Let's dive in and see what we can uncover.
What's really cool about this collection is, well, it's actually a journey through the history of Marvel vs. Capcom. We're talking X-Men, Children of the Atom, Marvel superheroes. You've got X-Men versus Street Fighter, Marvel superheroes versus Street Fighter, and of course the classics, Clash of Superheroes, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, even the Punisher is in there.
Wow, okay, so that's a lot of games. But like, for someone who hasn't touched these in forever, what makes these games so special anyway?
Well, some of these haven't been easy to play for ages. Think back to the early 2000s, even the 90s, The Punisher, for example. This is the first time it's been ported properly, like a true arcade experience. And Marvel superheroes, Clash of Superheroes, they've been MIA from modern consoles for way too long.
So it's like rediscovering this lost treasure trove of arcade games. But treasure can get kind of dusty sometimes. What did Capcom do to make these games feel like new again?
They've spruced them up, Graphics are sharper, colors really pop. But they didn't mess with that classic pixel art. No weird filters or anything. And they added some really nice features too, like a dedicated training mode, spectator mode if you just want to watch. Oh, and a one-button hyper combo option, so you can unleash those crazy attacks without being a combo master.
I saw some reviews talking about this rollback netcode for online play. Is that just a fancy buzzword, or does it actually matter?
Oh, it's huge, especially for older fighting games. Basically, it predicts what you're going to do. So it hides the lag, makes online matches feel almost like you're playing offline. You remember those old online matches, right? Where you press a button and your character takes forever to react. Rollback netcode aims to fix that.
That's pretty wild. But can it really make up for the fact that these games were designed for arcades, not online?
It's definitely a big step forward. And got to give Capcom credit, they really worked on those online matchmaking issues.
Yeah.
The ones that were a problem when the game first launched. From what I've seen, online's running smooth now.
That's good to hear, because online is kind of make or break for these games now, right? But one thing that really jumped out at me was all the bonus stuff. 500 pieces of art, design docs, a music player with over 200 tracks. It's crazy.
It's like they're giving you a behind-the-scenes tour of the development. Imagine looking through concept art, early sketches, even design docs, and the music. Oh, man. Those tunes will take you right back to the arcades, battling it out with your buddies. It's not just a collection of games, it's a celebration of Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yeah, and we can't talk about this collection without talking about the #FreeMVC2 campaign. It's a great example of what a passionate fan community can do.
Absolutely. This is a huge movement, led by Maximilian Dud, this guy, a big fighting game streamer. They organized events, created content, basically wouldn't let Capcom forget about these games. And look, it worked. This collection is a direct result of their efforts, and it shows, developers really do listen to their fans sometimes.
It's a great underdog story, but there was a bit of a problem, wasn't there? I'm talking about the whole no Xbox version thing at launch.
Yeah, that was a head-scratcher. Some folks think it was technical stuff. These games, they run on Capcom's MT framework engine. Powerful back then, but maybe not so easy to work with on today's hardware. Could have been some compatibility issues.
So not just Capcom, favoring other platforms.
Hard to say for sure. There's always the business side of things too, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they had their reasons for focusing on other consoles first.
Right.
Good news is, Xbox One version is coming in 2025. So Xbox fans, you won't be left out forever.
That's great. Everyone deserves to experience these classics. But for those who can play it right now, how's it been received? Are people loving it?
Oh yeah, really positive reception overall. Critics are praising it for staying true to the arcade originals. The online play is smooth thanks to the rollback netcode. And of course, everyone loves all the bonus content, generally favorable reviews across the board.
So good reviews, that's great. But did it actually sell well?
It did. Top seller on PlayStation 4 and performed well overall. Shows you there's still a lot of love for Marvel vs. Capcom. Could even mean we'll see more support for the collection in the future. Or maybe, just maybe, even a brand new Marvel vs. Capcom game down the line.
Now, with all these games, I gotta ask, are they all, equally loved? Or are there some clear favorites in the bunch?
Well, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. New Age of Heroes is widely considered the king. Huge roster, super fast gameplay, incredible music. But honestly, each game has its own unique charm. X-Men, Children of the Atom, that's your more grounded combo-heavy style. Then you got X-Men vs. Street Fighter with its tag team mayhem. And Marvel vs. Capcom 2, pure spectacle. It's a real fighting game feast.
So we've got this collection, these classic games, polished up and ready to go. It's not just a bunch of ROMs, it's a curated experience. You got the museum mode to explore the history behind these games, and it's a testament to what passionate fans can accomplish. And with Xbox on the way, even more people get to experience this.
Exactly. It shows that sometimes the classics are the best.
So we've covered the games, the features, the history, the drama, but what about the characters? With so many iconic Marvel and Capcom heroes and villains to choose from, I gotta ask, what would the ultimate Marvel versus Capcom team look like?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
So many characters, so many games. The possibilities are endless.
So, where would you even start if you were building a team?
Well, first you got to think about your style, right? Are you an aggressive player, all about rush-down tactics? Or do you like to keep your distance, zoning them out with projectiles? Or maybe something in between, a more balanced approach.
Okay, so that's your play style.
Then, you got to think about the characters you know and love. Do you stick with the classics? Or maybe try out some lesser-known fighters?
It's like putting together a superhero squad or like your dream fighting game team. You gotta think about each member's strengths, how they work together.
That's it. That's what makes Marvel vs. Capcom so great. It's not just button mashing. You got to understand each character, master their combos, find those crazy team synergies.
I mean, think about it. You got Magneto controlling the battlefield with metal, Juggernaut just charging through everyone, and then there's Norimaro. He's like a legend. What other fighting game lets you put those three on the same team?
It's that variety that makes Marvel vs. Capcom so special. Speaking of teams, did you see any interesting team compositions in those articles?
Yeah, actually, one article talked about a team with Captain Commando, Wolverine, and Jill Valentine. They said it was like super all-rounded. Captain Commando's got the power, Wolverine's got the rage and the healing factor. And Jill, well, she's a zombie-slaying expert with a rocket launcher.
That's a strong team, for sure. Good mix of offense and defense, close range and long range options. They'd be ready for anything. I can see why that would be a popular choice.
It made me think about all the other crazy teams you could make in this collection. It's kind of overwhelming, but in a good way.
It just shows you how much depth these games have. Even after all these years, they still inspire so much creativity and strategy. And with this collection, these games are more accessible than ever. I think we're going to see a real comeback for the competitive Marvel vs. Capcom scene.
Yeah, I can already picture players going deep into these games, experimenting with teams, finding all sorts of hidden techniques and strategies.
And who knows, maybe we'll get some updates in DLC down the road. More characters, new game modes, you never know.
The possibilities are exciting, for sure. But let's talk about you for a second. You're clearly a fan of these games. What is it about Marvel vs. Capcom that keeps you coming back? Is it the nostalgia, the competition, or something else entirely?
Honestly, it's a little bit of everything.
Wow.
I've got great memories of playing these games in the arcades back in the day. But it goes beyond nostalgia for me. I love the fast-paced action, the crazy over-the-top stuff, the strategy of team building, and that feeling you get when you land a perfect combo. It's just satisfying.
I know what you mean. There's nothing quite like outsmarting your opponent, reading their moves, countering with a devastating attack.
And it's not always about winning either. It's about the journey, Constantly learning, getting better, pushing yourself. There's always something new to discover in these games, whether it's a hidden technique, a new team synergy, or just a deeper understanding of your favorite character.
It sounds like this collection is more than just a re-release then. It's like a gateway into this whole world of competitive gaming, and maybe even a bit of self-discovery along the way.
Yeah, it reminds you that gaming can be more than just a hobby. It can be a source of passion, creativity, even personal growth.
So, for someone who's interested in this collection, but maybe a little intimidated by how complex these games can be, what advice would you give them? Where should they start?
I'd say just jump in, don't overthink it, pick a game that looks cool, choose some characters you like, and start playing. There are tons of resources online if you need help. Tutorials, character guides, forums, communities. You can find everything you need to get started.
So don't worry about being a pro right away. Just have fun with it.
Exactly. That's what it's all about, finding the joy in the game. Whether you're a casual player looking for a nostalgia trip, or a hardcore competitor who wants to climb the ranks, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection has something for everyone.
Maybe you'll even discover you're a natural at fighting games. Maybe you'll become the next EVO champion.
Or maybe you'll just have a blast playing some of the most iconic fighting games ever made. Either way, it's a win.
So we've established this collection is pretty special. But let's zoom out for a second. What does the success of this collection tell us about the gaming industry as a whole?
I think it shows that people really appreciate classic games.
Yeah.
And that nostalgia is a powerful force in a world where there's always something new coming out. It's comforting to revisit those games that we grew up with, the ones that made us fall in love with gaming in the first place.
Yeah, it's like revisiting a favorite book or movie from your childhood. It brings back all those good feelings, but you also appreciate it in a new way as an adult.
And it's not just about nostalgia either. I think people are realizing that these older games, even with their quirks, they still hold up amazingly well. They offer a depth and challenge that a lot of modern games are missing.
It's like comparing a classic car to a brand new sports car. The new car might have all the latest gadgets and tech, but the classic car has that timeless style and raw power that you just can't replicate.
Exactly. And I think publishers are catching on to that. We're seeing more and more re-releases and remasters of old games, and they're usually a big hit with both longtime fans and new players.
That's a trend I'm happy to see. It's awesome that these older games are getting a second chance to shine, especially when they're treated with as much care as Capcom has given Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection.
It's not just preserving gaming history, it's about sharing those classic experiences with everyone.
So let's think about you again. You're interested in this collection, you've heard all these good things about it. What are you thinking?
If you love fighting games, classic arcade games, or Marvel vs. Capcom, this collection is a must-have. You can relive your childhood memories, discover some hidden gems, and join a fantastic community of players.
And even if you're not a die-hard fighting game fan, there's still plenty to enjoy. Just check out that museum mode. It's like a window into the history of these iconic games.
And with the Xbox release coming up, even more people will be able to join in the fun.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's imagine you've just picked up Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, Arcade Classics. Which game are you playing first?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So many great choices. But if I had to pick just one, I'd probably go with X-Men vs. Street Fighter. It was my first Marvel vs. Capcom game, so it's special to me.
I can see why. It was a game changer, really set the stage for the whole series, that fast-paced tag team action, the crazy special moves, the iconic roster. It's all there.
Plus, it's just a lot of fun to play. Not as difficult to learn as some of the later games, so it's perfect for newcomers.
It's a classic for a reason, but honestly, no matter which game you choose, you're in for a treat. Each one offers something unique, and they've all aged really well, especially with those updated graphics and online play.
It's like a time machine back to the arcades, but with all the benefits of modern technology.
So you've got these classic games all polished up and ready to play. You've got online that actually feels good, thanks to rollback netcode. You've got a museum mode stuffed with behind-the-scenes goodness. And you've got a community of passionate players who can't wait to share these games with you. What more could you ask for?
Maybe just one more thing. A new Marvel vs. Capcom game. Now, wouldn't that be amazing?
Oh, you're speaking my language. A brand new game, you know, building on everything we love about these classics, but with modern graphics, gameplay, new characters, stages, the possibilities.
I think people are ready for a new Marvel vs. Capcom. This collection proves that there's a huge demand, and the fighting game scene is booming right now. It just feels like the perfect time for Capcom to make a move.
It would be awesome to see what they could do with the new installment, especially with all the tech advancements since Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Think about the online play, the spectator modes, maybe even cross-platform play, who knows?
And the roster. Imagine the possibilities, bringing back fan favorites like Ryu, Spider-Man, Morrigan, plus new characters from both universes, maybe even some guest characters from other franchises.
It's fun to dream, but do you really think Capcom is thinking about a new Marvel vs. Capcom? Or are we just getting our hopes up?
They haven't announced anything officially, but I wouldn't rule it out. Capcom has been paying attention to what fans want. And the hashtag FreeMVC2 campaign showed them there's a real passion for this series. Plus, the collection sold really well.
Yeah, it would be a smart move for them for sure. What better way to capitalize on all this excitement?
Exactly. And if they do make a new game, they've got so much to work with. They could take the best parts of the classic games, add in some fresh ideas and mechanics. It could be something really special.
Okay, Capcom, if you're listening, the ball's in your court. Give the people what they want. A new Marvel vs. Capcom game that blows us away.
Couldn't have said it better myself. But in the meantime, we've got Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection to keep us busy.
Right. 7 classic games, all polished up and looking good, smooth online play with rollback netcode, a museum mode packed with goodies.
And let's not forget that passionate community.
It's a love letter to the fans, a celebration of gaming history.
A reminder that the classics never really go away.
So that's it for our deep dive into Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, arcade classics. We explored the games, the features, the history, the drama. We even talked about the future.
We unpacked all those sources and gave you the full picture. Now it's your turn. Are you ready to jump into these classic battles?
Which game will you choose first? What kind of team will you create? Maybe you'll even join the competitive scene. It's all up to you.
And hey, who knows? Maybe someday we'll be back here talking about a brand new Marvel vs. Capcom game. We can always dream.
Until then, keep those combos going. And remember, the world of gaming is huge. There's always something new to discover.
So stay curious, keep exploring, and most importantly, have fun.